Hello everyone and welcome to From Around Los Angeles. I'm Gary Cox. Up next on this edition of From Around Los Angeles, the artwork of Bradford John Solomon. From Around Los Angeles. Welcome back, everybody, to From Around Los Angeles. Thank you for staying with us. And as I mentioned before the open, I'm very pleased to welcome artist Bradford John Solomon. Bradford, as he's well known, has been producing and drawing for several years now. He is primarily a charcoal artist. He does several renderings of charcoal personalities, from musicians to actors to politicians, and he's very much involved in several different types of artwork. And we had the opportunity to venture into Orange County recently, where we stumbled across his gallery. And Bradford, it's a pleasure to have you on From Around Los Angeles. I hope I billed you correctly. I know you do predominantly charcoal drawings, but you're involved in a little bit of other artwork. Why don't you tell our viewers exactly how you consider yourself, what kind of an artist you consider yourself to be?
Well, I've been working with the charcoals for so many years. I'm venturing into other forms of work, and I'm trying to concentrate on a few different things right now. The charcoals have gratified me for quite a long time, and I enjoy them immensely, but I have to focus on other things now and then to keep my interests varied, or I get kind of stuck in one thing or another, and so it helps to try to do different things.
How long have you been drawing charcoal renditions?
I started working with charcoal probably 10, 15 years ago. Worked with it in different forms and compositions, and exclusively the last few years, portraiture though. I think it renders itself to portraiture quite well.
We're going to be showing our viewers several of your portraits later on in the program. You were so kind to bring several along. We're going to be venturing into Bradford's studio shortly. But first, let me ask you this. These drawings are extraordinary. They're very captivating, and they're just superbly done. How long, what kind of training or background as an artist did you have? How did you get to be so good at this, I guess?
I think it's more within yourself, not to sound over the top, but art training and teachings, and there's only so much of that, and you need to put it aside. You need to go with what you feel, or your work's going to look so derivative to a teacher's work, or to this person's work, or that person's work. There's been a couple big influences in my life, artists such as William Gilpin, who's now passed away, but he helped me tremendously with some of the technical things that you need to know. But you get kind of caught up in that, and then you don't really get back to what's inside and what you want to bring out, which is what it's supposed to be about.
Let me ask you this. You probably get this question often. Is what is it that you feel, or what's your motivation when you're drawing these renditions, and how do you decide who to draw?
It's strictly expression. When you see an expression, it has to do something to you. When I see a concert or a movie or an interesting person, a talented person who motivates me simply by their personality, to be able to capture with an expression their personality, that is what I try to achieve. When I see a photograph that might inspire me, or a movie, or what have you, I say it kind of locks in, and I get an idea of how the feel I want to get. The Martin Luther King or what have you that you can see here. You try to create a mood that best represents the individual, and that's basically the idea, I guess.
Most of your portraits are rock and roll artists. However, you have several actors, as I mentioned, and a few politicians. How do you decide who to draw as far as that person, whether it's an actor or an artist? Is it something that you're feeling at the time?
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm interested in. If I feel personally that the person is talented and interesting and is trying to do something unique, I'm not going to ever try to promote an artist I mean a musician or what have you, who's simply manipulating the media, manipulating the general population to try to get his face on TV or what have you. What I'm trying to do is promote the people who are genuine to their feelings and genuine to what they want to do. And hopefully they'll be recognized, not the people who just happen to be on the cover of every magazine you see.
Let's take this opportunity at this time, Brad, and venture into your studio. You were kind enough to let us go down there and shoot some video about a week ago, and maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about some of the portraits that we're going to be taking a look at here momentarily. You'll have the opportunity, folks, to see these portraits individually. They'll come up for a few seconds, but this is half of your studio, is it not? I guess
that's right. Yeah.
And that's a nice portrait of Mickey O'Rourke. You particularly, this is one of your favorites, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Mickey's got a style of his own.
And we're going to be taking a look at that portrait again later on. Now, here's one of the few politicians that you did, JFK. When you're drawing these, Bradford, how long on the average does it take for you to draw each portrait? And is it something that you sit down and you do from start to finish, or do you work on one particular portrait, maybe go to another, then come back, or what's your particular style?
It's never a situation where I start the piece, beginning to end. I've got numerous pieces going, maybe a painting, various drawings, different things going on at once. So it's very hard to calculate, how many hours I put into it. When somebody asks me that, I normally say a couple months. The Zeppelin that you're looking at there, the original took me close to 3 years. Quite a bit of detail in that one. But the average piece is usually around the studio a 3 months before I say, yeah, it's done. And
when you're doing these, do you have to? Are you frustrated when you're doing this kind of work? Is that a good motivating factor?
Absolutely frustrated in the sense that it's work. A lot of people look at art and they say, gee, that must have been just so much fun, and look at how much fun he had with that, and isn't that great? It's with anything else, If you're a bricklayer, it takes work. You're gonna sit there and you're gonna go, God, how much longer can I work on this? You're looking at the overall piece, you're inspired, so that therefore you're able to continue with it. But generally, it is work, and it is tedious.
Here's a color drawing of Kim Basinger. Do you venture into the color often, or are you strictly a black and white?
People find my black and whites to be more dramatic as a rule. Now and again, I can do a color piece that I think is fairly dramatic, so I display it. But I'm still concentrating on the charcoals. I'm trying to get away from it to an extent.
Now here's
this one,
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, here's a portrait of James Dean you've been working on for a while. What can you tell us about this one?
This one is different in the sense, first of all, that it's pastel. Normally the feel is much tighter, it's more exact. When this is done, it'll be still have a loose feeling to it, and that's mainly due to the fact that I'm using pastel, which allows much more freedom, much more movement, and it's just easier to work with on a bigger scale. And also you can create slightly more dynamics in the sense that your blacks get blacker, and you can use Conte and a few other different mediums to enhance the light areas as well.
You have a soft spot, I guess, for James Dean, do you not?
Well, yes, I do. I think there's so many people that think he was really expressive and genuine to his feelings. He didn't really fit the mold, and that was what was interesting. He copied Marlon Brando to a large extent, and Brando was the original who did what was natural, felt what was natural. He didn't say, well, I'm a movie star, or I'm this, or I'm that, and I need to do this, I need to do that. It was kind of from the inside, and it was kind of a more relaxed approach to being in movies or whatever. So I think he was more genuine. People say it was maybe a manufactured image, but I disagree. You know, I think it was very very true and very accurate to how he actually felt.
You're quite selective in who you will draw. I mean, you really have to have some kind of a bond there. Is that a safe way to describe it?
Sure, if I can enjoy their music, and if I can enjoy their music, there's no way to be inspired. If I can't enjoy their movies or whatever they're doing, then it is difficult to motivate myself, and generally it just doesn't happen. So,
how often are you able to create a new charcoal drawing?
Like I say, I'm working on more than a few at any one time, and it's kind of odd. People say, when is this one going to be done? I heard you're working on this or that. And I can't tell them a time. I can't say, well, it's, let me be done in 2 weeks. I might wake up one morning in the middle of the night, it's 1 a.m., and hey, I feel like working on this one piece. I might have been thinking about it, and I race off to the studio and work on that for a couple hours, and then out of nowhere it's done. So
there's no really way to gauge it.
There's no real way to gauge it. It might be 1 or 2 a month. This one you're looking at now, the Aerosmith, is going to take a little more time than the normal portraits with just one image.
Sure. Now, are you a fan of Aerosmith, or?
Yeah, I think I grew up. There's another band that I grew up listening to, and whether I liked it or not at the time, it was what my brothers were listening to. I was influenced by them, and now when I listen to it, I get a little more out of it than maybe someone who's a teenager and just listened to it for the first time. So I've got a little background, a little interest on their past music, and that helps me motivate myself to want to finish it.
Now, you're a very successful artist. I don't think if you can't tell by looking at your artwork, but you've sold several pieces of your work, and I was talking to you last week, and you said something that I thought was quite interesting, in that you're very conscious of who you sell your artwork to. Can you maybe expound on that a little bit?
Well, some people think you're being over the top or egotistical or whatever when people are so afraid to comment on your work or say a certain thing. They might offend the artist if he's there. And so I don't want to promote that type of feeling, but at the same time, I do want to sell it to somebody who's interested in it, particularly when we're talking about an original. I don't want somebody to buy it and be hoping that I'll be dead in 2 years, so the resale value. It's something I'd rather have somebody who has enjoyed it, the person I've drawn, and enjoys the work and simply has to have it because they think it's neat or whatever. So, beyond that, I just appreciate the fact that people do like the work, and I'm frankly blown away many times by the fact that they are so interested in it. I think, God, I did it, so I'm interested in it, but who knows? And then when I get the reaction, it's very gratifying.
And of course, you might even vary the price of these works a little bit depending on who's buying. If you see somebody that's making it paycheck to paycheck, but they've fallen in love with one of your pieces of art, you might accommodate them a little bit.
Yeah, very definitely. The appreciation value. When somebody looks at it and says, I appreciate this, what I mean by appreciation value, I just love this piece. You can tell they do. You're talking to them. You get the idea that, this guy really, really enjoys the piece. Then, of course, I'm going to try to work something out with him to where he gets it on his wall and he can work it out later, or, as far as the money end of it. And if somebody just runs in, they got a check and they say, it looks like I could resell that in a couple of years and maybe make a few bucks on it.
Right.
Then he's going to pay top dollar,
Sure.
So
you're is that do you perceive that as being a norm for artists of your caliber and nature, as far as you're so aware of who your buyers are? Is that normal for artists, or do you find yourself an exception in that case?
Well, I do try to be exposed to the people that are interested in my work as much as possible. I don't want to hide in a corner and say, you know, what did they say about the work, you know, and ask the people that are selling my work. I try to be involved in it and try to get the reaction specifically from the people who are interested in it. When I get that kind of reaction, then I can take that back to my studio and I say, well, you know, I'm getting this, I'm getting that. I'm still going to go on my gut feeling on what I want to do, but I do want to be involved in that way, you know.
Great. We're going to take a short break and return with more of Bradford John Salomon's portrait, so please don't go anywhere.
Randy Travis on strings, Branford Marsalis on the horn, Paul Schaefer on keys, Carly Simon on lead. There are a lot of different parts to play in the American Red Cross. Play your part.
The animals in the forest. If they could talk, what would they say? They might say, be careful with fire in the forest. Just like Smokey says, only you can prevent forest fires.
And welcome back to From Around Los Angeles, everybody. Gary Cox here. I have artist Bradford John Salomon, and we've been talking about many of his portraits that he's been working on for a few years. He does portraits of rock and roll artists, movie stars, and politicians. He paints. He's from Orange County and a very interesting individual. And Brad, if you were watching earlier in the show, we ventured into your studio. You have a very interesting studio, but that's kind of your area of solitude, is it not? You don't let too many people down there because you have a gallery.
Right. That's the place I want people to go to see the work. There's a certain amount of solitude and of almost hiding when I'm in that studio. I want to be left alone. I can't concentrate unless everything's out of the way and there's no distractions, which is common sense. But yeah, it is kind of a place to escape, really.
As we take a look at some video of your gallery, and this is on the Balboa Peninsula, your gallery, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your relationship between college students, because you do have a special relationship there in so much as your portraits are musically orientated and they attract that age group.
True. The college age is probably the most appreciative audience that I now have. I can really jive with them. I'm a similar age. They seem to appreciate it quite a bit.
You're a big hit when you go on campus, aren't you? I mean, what's your tour schedule in that respect? How often do you get out and get to local schools and sign your artwork for the kids and whatnot?
That's one of the most ideal places to connect with your audience, to try to figure out what makes them interested and what interests them. So when I'm at a college, I get a tremendous amount of feedback. I get a tremendous amount of interest, whereas somebody older or someone quite a bit younger might be reluctant to come forward and say, you know, I really like that because of this, or I really don't like that because of that. College student, you know, he's exposed to so many different things all day with tests and this and that and the other thing. I think he's more apt to go ahead and say the things that he really feels. And so I get more of a true picture from that age group and that kind of environment.
I would imagine there's hundreds of Bradfords in many dormitories and college student houses across the state. Let me ask you that makes me think of something I haven't yet to ask you. Do you get out of the state of California? Or are you, at this point, are you finding that your work is selling within the state, or how have you commercially marketed yourself?
Well, I've tried to originally concentrate on the area I grew up in. And as it turns out, the last few years I've been able to expose my work to, the cities of San Francisco and New York and San Diego and mostly within the states. I've concentrated on, and you'll find the response to be quite similar. There'll be variations in different cities, but as a rule, they appreciate the work as much as around here.
So you had the opportunity to get back east to New York then?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
I have a lot of family back there, so I go back there anyway, and then I take the opportunity to show my work as well, usually.
Let's take the opportunity now to show some of the portraits that you've been so kind to bring along. Go ahead and grab that first one, Brad, and you're going to be telling us a little bit about each of these, I guess. And this particular one is a favorite.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. I think an interesting thing about this one or Jack Nicholson generally, is he has an expression that doesn't necessarily say I'm smiling. It doesn't necessarily say I'm evil. There's kind of both. I'll look at this piece at one time and say, God, he looks so jovial and happy, and the next minute he's got a very evil and sadistic, and that's almost the most evil look you can have when you got a smile to kind of cover it up.
Sure.
So I was trying to get a little of both feelings within this one expression.
That's a really interesting one, and of course, in so much that you do a fair amount of actors, but you don't do as many of the musicians. So when you have a chance to do an actor that you really like, such as a James Dean or a Jack Nicholson, you're that much more into it, I would have to imagine.
Yeah, I would say it goes back to expression and talent. I mean, Albert Einstein, or whoever. It doesn't have to be an actor, a musician, or anything else. If it's just an interesting person doing something interesting, I'm working on a Malcolm X right now because I think he has done so much. He had done so much, and we still feel the effects of what he's done. And he's just an interesting person, so it doesn't have to be any particular media, movies or music or whatever.
Now, the next one we have is quite interesting. It's not one that you normally venture into, but this is of a baby, a portrait of a baby.
I thought this was a little different. I thought I'd bring this along because it's a baby who doesn't understand anything yet, and the world is brand new to him, like all babies. But he's looking at the entire world for the first time. He's not a brand new baby, but he's.
Did you begin? Let me interrupt you. Did you begin this one when you found out that you were expecting a child yourself? Is that a motivation there?
Well, no. This was quite a while ago when I did this piece. But the fascination, the idea that a new being comes into the world and has no idea what he's going to see. I mean, has no idea what's going on, and there's kind of an expression of.
That's great.
What's going on? What am I in for here?
Right, exactly. That's super. We are beginning to run out of time, so we might want to move to these a little expeditiously. These frames are absolutely gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, my dad does all the framing. Without my dad's help, I would be probably on the street selling them. But with his help, he frames these, and it's kind of an art in itself. But this one, Morrissey, not much to say about it. Interesting profile. Hopefully.
And now here's a more popular musician in Jerry Garcia.
Been around a little longer.
How much might some of these portraits go for, Brad? Originals?
Like we discussed before, it can vary with who's interested in it. A couple $1,000s is a kind of a general rule for an original, and it also depends on the amount of work that goes into it.
I see. That's great. That's great. And let's see, next we have...
This is a new model who I think has caught the attention of just about everybody who takes a look at her.
That's gorgeous.
She's really something else.
So you do models in addition to the musicians and the actors and the politicians?
Yeah, like, you know, whoever does an interesting job at what they're supposed to be doing, and she definitely interests me.
Now here's another
yeah, this
another
one
Dean portrait.
I wanted to bring because I thought it was interesting in the sense that when it's on the wall and when I'm at my studio, it looks at me. You know, it's one of those that really pops out of the wall, and I generally don't even hang it because it's kind of intense, and it really
is very intense. It's the eyes, you know, and I wanted to mention that. It seems on all of your portraits, the eyes really come out. They really grab you. Is that something that you've done intentionally? As maybe we can take a look on this next particular portrait.
Sure, I think you know, the old cliche, the eyes are the window of the soul, is a relevant thought, but there's no particular area of the face that I'm going to work on any more than the next area. You know, you've got to concentrate on the whole composition of a piece.
Sure.
And you know, often you'll see artists who concentrate just on the eyes and the rest of it is faded away or whatever. And
right.
The eyes are very important, but to create the expression, you really need it all, I think.
Well, talking about the eyes, this next portrait of Sinead O'Connor, I mean, they're haunting, and this is an absolute beautiful portrait.
Yeah, I'm proud of this one. She does have those eyes anyway. Kind of a wicked look about her eyes, and she has an original style, original feel about her when you watch her, you know, video or whatever, see her in concert. Kind of mesmerizing eyes, but it kind of tells you what's behind her, what's inside her head, maybe.
And we have one more.
One more. This is, a couple more.
Couple more.
If we can do it. Like I said, here's the originator of what's modernly known today as cool in my mind.
Right. That's a great hat.
He's the one and only, and he's still happening today.
That's for sure.
Absolutely.
That's for sure. Now, the last one we have is a personal favorite.
Yeah.
In Mickey O'Rourke. Now, why is this?
Mickey Rourke, he's you know, with the genre of the Dean Brandos in the sense that he's true to his feelings. Last couple of films he's done, I think he was listening too much to what people were telling him about who he was and everything. But now he seems to be back to doing things that are him. You know, be yourself, and that's interesting, and he is interesting.
That's great.
And,
that's great. As we only have a couple of minutes left, I want to touch upon an area that you used to be very much involved in. You're still involved, and that's music. You were in a band, Home of Bones.
Homes of Bones. Right.
That group is no longer around.
Well, we're on a kind of a hiatus, you know.
What about the relationship between that music, Brad, and your art? Well, how did you transcend that, and were they related? Are they related?
They're very related. I think I wouldn't be nearly as interested in the music end of it and the musicians that I draw if I wasn't interested in music. You know, music has been an inspiration to me since I can remember. I've always wanted to play drums. I would probably be happy to this day if I could play drums for a living for the rest of my life, but that doesn't work out. There's too much nonsense in the music business for me, so I've gotten away from it, but I can't escape, you know, the enjoyment of it, and I don't want to. I love it. I'm in a band called the Squirt Boys right now, and we're doing a Halloween party coming up, and it's just a really good time, and I've always been in music, and I've made a couple albums, but nothing that has gone too far because it wasn't manufactured or done in a way where, okay, we're going to get this far, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It wasn't, you know, manipulating the public. We were just kind of doing our own thing, and without the backing and the things that go on in music today, it's very difficult to be successful in the music area. So I'll just take the back seat and do it on the side, you know.
Where do you go from here as an artist, Bradford?
I want to concentrate on other things. I've done charcoal for so long, I've concentrated on that for so long. I've done paintings on the side. I want to try everything. I've tried most things, but I haven't been able to concentrate on them and expand on them. I love to paint right now. I'm working with acrylics and pastels and a little bit of oils. But nothing is excluded from the possibilities of what I might want to be doing in the future. So it's kind of up in the air, and I'm excited because I don't know what it's going to be, and that's the best part.
Bradford John Solomon, thanks so much for your time and coming down and letting us invade your artistic private life. It was certainly a pleasure, and best of luck to you in the future. And you don't mind if we
My
close
pleasure.
the show with one of your songs, do you?
Oh, not at all.
All right, great. This is Mind Without a Home. I'm Gary Cox from around Los Angeles. Thanks so much for watching.
Wet from a rain shower, while inside the left turns sour. She fixes with the bottle, she fixes with everything she finds. Talking to her own head.